Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
I hear applause outside the arena.
Oh, actually, that's just my 3 dogs off camera here at home.
The hardest working man in local sports television, Niko, and we need to redo the show open with David Lee because of that. You are everywhere.
Well, so are you, my friend. And yeah, this is Seattle sports, man. Stuff happens all the time. I was going to be off the last couple days, and then, Cooper Cup stuff happens. You change your schedule, and next thing you know, Inside the Arena is being done from the corner of my bedroom. We'll have a cool backdrop next time I do this, though, which is fun.
Yeah, you have been at every Seahawks signing, and boy, oh boy, there has been a ton going on lately. Kraken, other sports in town. You have, I feel like you have not had 2 days off in a row in a very long time.
I thought I had it this week. I was like this close. Yeah, it's you know what though is, and I don't want to sound cliche here, but the whole adage, like, you don't really work a day in your life if you love what you do, right? Well, that's true with this. And does it really work if you're at the VMAC or starting next week at T-Mobile Park or whatever it might be? It's a lot of fun and cool to kind of chronicle this like wild next chapter of Seahawks football,
Yeah, and you, in between all of that, you stop by the old Kraken Community Iceplex for a conversation.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, are you going to, if the Kraken tells you after you ask that Ron Francis is available, it doesn't matter if you're off or not, you go talk to Ron Francis. So, and that was, we talked about it on last week's show, how I really felt about the perception of the Kraken moves, that it was seen as a sell-off, and I really, truly didn't believe that was the case, and it is not the case, and Ron really shed some light on that. It's a wonderful conversation, as are all of my conversations with Ron Francis, but I think that if you're a Kraken fan, make sure you really listen to this. Because the things he spells out, the intricate nature of the trades, the reasons they traded those specific players, the reason they accumulated the draft picks when they accumulated the draft picks, it's all part of a huge plan for what they hope is a big summer splash. I think it will be, and we'll have to wait and see whether that's free agent signings or trading, but Ron is loading up, and he's loading up to execute a plan this summer. I can't wait to see it play out. The Kraken really needs to let that play out, and I think that next year's team will be, in a much better shape because you'll have these young players coming up. At the same time, you still have core players, McCann, Dunn, Larson, Alexiak. You still have all these guys there. Eberle, right? At the same time that you're going to have some new faces coming to town, not to mention Montour and Stevenson. So that interview coming up, but that's kind of your teaser for it. There's a lot to unpack with the Seattle Kraken.
A lot to talk about with the Kraken, but something we do every week here. We like to talk about what's good, what's bad, off the course, off the field, off the ice, off the court. Away from the field of play is what I'm trying to say. 4 corners. Niko, what do you like this week?
I like being in Seattle in March. You know why? March Madness at Climate Pledge Arena. Seahawks and Kraken Mania. And not to mention, it's opening day coming up. Less than a week. So, it's funny, if you ask me like what the busiest time of year in Seattle sports is, I mean, you'd always say the fall because you hopefully have a Mariners playoff push. You have the Seahawks and Huskies and Cougs in full swing high school football. But, of course, then you have the Kraken starting up as well in October, September training camp. So if you ask me what the busiest time, the most fun time is, yeah, sure, that's the first one. But March is underrated. March is not vacation time. March is when, kudos to Beth Knox and the Seattle Sports Commission helping the NCAA tournament get here. Let's not forget we have the NCAA swimming and diving, at the center in South King County. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And, of course, opening day, as you know, Chris, is like a holiday here. It's oh, my gosh. So this is what I'm positive about. I know it's not one specific thing, but it's like one of those times you're like, yeah, man, let's go. Like, this is a lot of fun right now.
Yeah, the smell of the grass is just a little over a week away. I always love that smell in the spring at T-Mobile Park. And like you just said, having an event like March Madness, I think people forget that when you have an event like that, that is booking out multiple hotel rooms in town. We are talking about hundreds of hotel rooms that are blocked out for these visiting teams, coaches, players, cheerleaders, And that is all hotel motel revenue. A little under 20% of the rack rate is going back into the community. It is a big thing. You can crunch all those numbers, but there's a lot of revenue that comes with having an event like that spread over essentially 4 or 5 days. It is a nice thing. Another nice thing I wanted to talk about is we head around second base here. The second corner, which it really relates to television. I want to give a shout out this week to Patrick Brown. He is a longtime director for Root Sports. I've known him for a very long time. He's the director for the Kraken Hockey Network. And you were just mentioning one of the rookies, Yanni Newman, who came up and in his very first game on the ice for the Kraken scored a goal. And it was a great moment that was caught by Patrick Brown as the director of the Kraken Hockey Network. I want to read you what Patrick wrote about this. How does a great moment come to television? The day before the game, you hear the highly regarded minor leaguer is getting called up. Is he going to play tomorrow? Will his parents be here? The next day, it looks like he's playing. Can we find out where his parents will be sitting? What are their names? How do you pronounce them? At the camera meeting, you share with the crew that there's a potential big moment coming. You tell them where the parents are going to be. The crew takes the extra step to place an inconspicuous marker on their seats so they can quickly identify if the parents are there. A plan is made together to when we will park a camera on the parents when their son is on the ice. Game time comes. The player takes his rookie lap. We check in on the parents. The kid has his first shot. The parents are there, hanging on to every moment of skating. The third period arrives. Power play. We've introduced the family throughout the game. Now it's up to the youngster. Will he get his goal? And the moment comes. And it was a great moment. Yanni Newman getting his first goal in his first NHL game. And I love the explanation there. The separation is in the preparation, as somebody used to say. Patrick Brown, the director there with the Kraken Hockey Network, it was a great moment that was captured on live television as he got that first goal.
It was one of those moments as I watched it, I audibly gasped when I saw the parents. And you know, as a parent, you can only imagine if your son ever or daughter or whatever ever got to do something like that. So I see them because you just appreciate what they're enjoying at that moment. And hey, great job by the Kraken Hockey Network, because I will never forget that moment. I will never forget seeing his parents jump up and down after that goal. And then even for the second one later in the week. Well done by KHN, no question about it.
Yeah, I was sitting in that corner of the ice where he scored that goal, and I immediately was like, first game, first goal. I was telling the people around me, and they had the parents up on the screen as well. A great job in preparation for that moment. And I tell you, Yanni Newman looks good.
Yeah, he does. And you'll hear it from Ron in a couple minutes here. I mean, that's what he's talking about. And I mean, the Kraken has a lot of great prospects. I mean, you look at Berkeley Catton, what he's doing out on the other side of the state in the WHL. But you look at a guy like Yanni, gets called up, boom, does that. It's the same thing we saw with Ty Cartier a couple years ago in the playoffs, right? And certainly Shane Wright has led this team in scoring since November. So just from that perspective, you look at the youth for this team. Now they just got to figure out the pieces around it, which is we kind of led with, and as Ron will talk about, that's something I'm kind of confident in at this point. But yeah, I will never forget that moment with Yanni Newman. Really special stuff.
So what don't you like this week?
I'm going to go on a rant here, Chris. And I know this.
Oh, I'm ready for the rant. People are ready for the rant.
Dude, I get it. It's 2025. We want things right now. I was sending tweets out from the VMAC yesterday. They weren't instantly sending, and I was so angry about it. 2025, we're all about right here, right now. But holy cow, can we hang on a minute with the off seasons and transactions with these teams? You would have thought the sky was falling when the Seahawks traded Geno Smith and DK Metcalf away, right? And maybe in December I will say it is. Maybe when they're like 4-12. I don't think they will be, but if that happens, right? And so my point here is this. We want things right now, but sometimes in the real world, it takes a few minutes for a plan to formulate. And so Chris, and I know you know this too, look at the difference in whether it's social media chatter, fans around town, between the 2 or 3 days when DK and Geno are traded to right now after Darnold and Kupp are here with, 5 picks in the first 92 for the Hawks. How much of a difference is that, right?
Yeah.
And it was only a week.
Yeah.
Listen, a great football coach once told me, fan is short for fanatic, and I get that, and fans are what make sure that this thing is so special. I don't have a job without fans. They're so special. But hang on a second. I don't think I'm talking about an entire fan base, of course. I think I'm talking about a small pocket probably on social media. But this just instant, wow, they're gone. Seahawks are terrible. Or, to our point with the interview coming up in a minute, wow, Kraken traded those guys. They're selling. They're horrible. pump the brakes. John Schneider, Ron Francis, whoever it is, guys have been doing it for a while. Let's let them put their plan together. And if you know what, the next couple seasons, after you show a little patience, the season doesn't work out, but it almost brings me back to, a few years ago. I couldn't tell you how many, national or other local NFL market radio shows are on that I went on. They're like, they're nuts for starting Geno Smith. They're going to win 2 games. Like, what is John Schneider thinking? I'm just like, we'll see. And then they, went to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
To be freaking out about a football team in March, or to be worried, it's just, let's show a little patience, guys. Let these guys, and I get it, even from some media folks out there, like, you're not getting, 1,000 likes when you say everything's hunky-dory, right?
Yeah.
You're getting 1,000 likes when you say this team is stupid. But you know what I'm saying? They're not. Let's practice a little patience, and let's see what these guys do from here. And as the Seahawks proved in a week, yeah, they got a pretty good vision, and I can't wait to see what they do in the draft. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Well, and as we talk about on this show, the idea that Geno Smith wanted more money than they signed Sam Darnold, they saved money there at the quarterback position. Tyler Lockett left, they saved money there. They brought in Cooper Kupp at a rate lower than DK Metcalf. So this is the salary cap game, right? You're losing some parts that are more expensive, so to speak, and replacing them on a lower level, but that allows you to then sign people on the defensive line and other parts of this team. That's every team goes through that, and yes, to your point, a week later, it certainly seems like a different conversation.
Exactly. Don't freak out until you see a few more moves and understand it. And I don't even know if so many people know this. Pro Football Focus coming out with, and overthecap.com, which is really good at salary cap numbers. The deal with Darnold is really only guaranteed from the Seahawks' perspective for this year. If Darnold does not do well, they can be off the books with him after this season. Now, they can keep it going for the full 3 years as the deal we know goes for. But the contract is actually, when you look at the details of it, quite genius from John Schneider. Again, practice patience. Wait for details to come out. And then if you're still mad, be mad about it. It's fine. But yeah, give it a little time.
Well, I will bring it home by saying what I don't like this week is me.
Oh no, we love you, Chris.
Yeah, no, I think the Seattle Kraken went out of their way to make me look silly after we talked last week about ratings and butts in seats after going to back-to-back games against the Utah Hockey Club that wanted to be called the Yeti, and of course the Canadians in that Yanni Newman game. I will tell you, it was rocking inside the bowl. All of the seats were filled. It was a back-and-forth game with the Canadians, up 2-0, down 4-2, 4-4 overtime. The Montour goal 4 seconds in. It was rocking on Saturday night as well, and I did not see a lot of empty seats. I think there's still some people over time that are late arriving. And then as far as ratings, it was pointed out to me in the last week, you really can't look at the cup half full or half empty when it comes to the ratings for the Kraken. We've talked about it on this show that if you look at it in one perspective, they have not been great. There are a lot of games over local television, meaning Seattle television, that are under a 1. And to give people some perspective, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy on KOMO get 2.5 to 3 on some nights. So those are game shows that are beating the actual games on the ice. But when you look at it from a Kraken perspective, in this brave new world of over-the-air broadcasts and combining with Amazon, they are thrilled. And they will tell you, when you talk about the reach of Amazon Prime, the Spokane market, Boise, Portland, Alaska, that their ratings are up significantly. And again, to give some perspective on this, when we talk about things like, well, I got a 1 or it had a 0.7. Back in 2023, Niko, they were getting a 0.68 rating in the Seattle market. That was amongst the lower level of the National Hockey League. At one point, they had a 0.1 during a game. They had a 0.3, which means very few eyeballs. That was when they were on Root Sports. That was a big issue for them in terms of getting distribution. So we see these numbers as they pertain to the Seattle market, and while they're not great when taken in totality with everything else, they would tell you that their numbers in this brave new world are extremely better than they were just a year ago on Root Sports by double digits, especially with those Amazon Prime viewers, and we can't see those numbers. Amazon does not release their numbers. So cup half full, cup half empty. The Kraken seem to be happy with how this television deal in year 4 is going, and that's why they need to have more games like against the Montreal Canadiens back and forth to really contain the momentum.
Yeah, you guys were both right. You were looking at the Seattle numbers, which are realistically the only ones we can look at, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't get the Boise Daily Report or the Portland or the Spokane.
Yeah.
And certainly Amazon Prime doesn't make their numbers available. So you were both right. That's okay. We can both be right. More
cup half full, cup half empty.
The extra, and we appreciate the Kraken giving the extra information to paint the full story. No question about it. But you weren't wrong, my friend. They just gave you a little more information to be like, you know what? It's a little bit of both. It's cool.
They tapped a tentacle on my shoulder or something like that. Yeah.
Well played, sir.
Let's talk about something. We're going to bring it down a notch here in the Supersonic Minute. I'm not going to play any sort of horn. There's been a lot of news off the court, and it's not good. And I want to highlight Sandy Gregory from the Sonics Legends Fund and Fred Brown, people refer to him as Downtown Freddie Brown, had an event over the weekend for Gus Williams, a celebration of life that they put together. Kenny Mayne was there, Steve Rabel, the voice of the Hawks, a lot of former Sonics, former NBA guys to honor Gus Williams, who we lost a couple of months ago after a several-year battle with a stroke. And at that event, they also announced the loss of Slick Watts, who also suffered a stroke a few years ago. We have talked with Donald Watts. You've talked with Donald Watts on this show. It has been a long battle. It took a toll on Donald as well. And unfortunately, in that day, that news broke. Gus Williams and Slick Watts, and I really just wanted to highlight Sandy Gregory, who has raised money for these individuals, for other former Sonics who have been struggling, and she helped put that together with Fred Brown, and I think it was a nice way for people to get together still in the NBA community here in Seattle to pay tribute to Gus, and unfortunately at the same time Slick.
Yeah, listen, what else can you say, right? Two absolute legends of the game, and we love the Watts family, and it's just so special to talk to Donald and see the legacy continue with Isaiah in the college game. And I just think that it was just one of those, for it to happen, Slick's passing on the same day they remembered Gus with that special ceremony. It was just one of those moments that kind of let you know the time is passing. It's sad to say that, and certainly our thoughts are with both families at a really difficult time, passing, just about exactly 2 months apart. In fact, I think it was 2 months to the day that we lost Gus, that Slick passed. So our thoughts are with them, and I can't second enough what you said about Sandy Gregory and everything she does. Sonics Legend Fund is so special, and Donald will be the first to tell you, helped the Watts family so much in what was a really difficult time of need, no question about it.
And give people the chance to also Google the Watts family and KOMO TV. Eric Johnson did a great piece not too long ago on their impact on the community and Slick's history in Seattle as well. All right, so we turn the page inside the arena to the interview that we've been teasing, and that is Ron Francis, the general manager of the Kraken. You talked to him about future plans.
No question about it. I feel like I've teased it so much already. Let's get right to the interview with Ron Francis, because this is quite informative for everybody. It lays out the vision for the Kraken. And when we say the future, selling those guys isn't some part of the distant future. It's about competing and getting back in 2026. I like the plan. I'll let you decide for yourselves and have your own opinion. Let's get to that interview with Ron Francis, but first we have a quick break from our friends at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, where comfort meets elegance. This summer, experience breathtaking Cascade views, world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Elevate your next getaway by combining effortless style with the utmost relaxation. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
This is kind of like a period of transition, right? There's several moves at the deadline, and that can happen at this time of year. But as we get forward here on the other side of it, and we're seeing, other guys maybe playing different roles and other guys emerge. So what is it like now on the other side of the deadline?
Yeah, no, I think always when you're getting into the deadline, you're always hoping to be in a position where you can add pieces, right? Unfortunately, where we were, we had to make some tough decisions. We had 4 guys move out. 3 of them were on expiring contracts or unrestricted free agents. So you look at whether you think you can sign them or not, and rather than lose that player for nothing on July 1st, we were able to get 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks in the 7th for those players. So what it also did was free up a lot of cap space for us. So we've got $20 million in cap space heading into the offseason, plus all the draft capital. It wasn't a cost-saving measure to save money. It's an opportunity for us to try and go out in the free agent market or via trade with the draft capital we have, moving some of that now to get players to help speed this up a little bit forward.
And that's just it. When you look at it, I mean, on the surface, to a casual fan, so to speak, it's like, oh, well, they're trading board, they're trading it's like, are they selling now? But in reality, like everything you just said, the cap space created, especially, this is in a lot of ways, oh, hey, let's bounce back right away kind of move, right?
That's what we're trying to do for sure. And the other part of this too is we do now have some of our young players getting to the point where they can come in and play. You saw it the other night with a young guy by Yanni Neiman coming in his first game scoring a goal. You saw Melanson get a game. You'll probably see some more guys here get some games down the stretch. Berkeley Catton Jr., that's a big step. But the season he's having is made everybody sort of take notice of him too, and we'll see where he goes in training camp. But some of what we think we can replace with is internally with some of our young players progressing to the point now we think they're pushing for jobs, and then obviously with the draft capital, 5 first-round picks and 5 second-round picks in the next 3 years. We're not looking to draft 10 players in those 3 drafts with those picks. We are hoping to sort of parlay those into maybe acquiring some players to make our lineup a little stronger. That
kind of led into my next few questions here. I'll start with internally. We've seen the rise of Shane Wright this year, how big he's been. We've seen, and there's a lot of young guys that it's like, you almost forget how young they are because they've been here a few years. Yeah. We talk about a Ty or a Maddie. How much does their play this year really kind of, it's never easy to part ways with guys that have been important parts, but how much has the emergence of some of those young guys maybe made it like, okay, we're going to be all right moving forward as far as filling that spot internally?
Yeah, and part of that was with Yanni. I mean, I think Yanni is a top 9 guy, but based with where we were with Matty Benier signing Chandler Stevenson in the offseason last year in a free agent contract, and then Shane. I mean, Matty's just turned 22 and Shane just turned 21, so those are young pieces and part of our future. So it really didn't afford the opportunity for Yanni in that situation as well. You saw it the other night. Yanni Newman is 20 years old. This guy playing his first year in the American League with 26 goals is number 2 in goal scoring in the American Hockey League, number 1 for rookies. Last year, all he did was break a record that stood for 40 years in the Liga, the top men's league in Finland, for most goals scored by a player 20 and under. So he's having a good season. I liked his game the other night. It's still early in the process, but we think he can push for an opportunity to take somebody's job next September as well. So a lot of internal pieces coming, but again, with the cap space and the draft capital, it allows us to do a lot more things.
How impressive was that to see Yanni first game do that, right?
Just his whole game, I thought, was really impressive. The decisions he made offensively and defensively were good. You look at him closely, he finds ways to find open ice. There was a rush in the second period. He slowed down, cut in. He was wide open for a pass. The goal he scored, he saw the play developing and charged towards the net. And some guys might not have seen that. And a little simple play like the one we had the goalie pulled. They actually had a guy shadowing him to take away a shot because he shoots it so well. And he realized that and drifted down towards the net and brought the guy with him, which in theory opened up all the space for Vince Dunn up top to get the shot that Matty did deflect. So really impressive first game for Yanni.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the draft capital you had there. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
And you mentioned there's possibilities there, whether it's sooner or later, whatever it might be. It almost sounds like a cliche question, but what is that like from the GM chair when you have all those draft picks and you're like, okay, I can keep these, I can move these for other assets, whatever it might be. That, again, I keep using that word, it's a lot of flexibility though, right?
There's a lot of flexibility in that. The other thing we did was we didn't get all those picks in this year. So if you did it this year, the draft is this June, and you have a short window to kind of accomplish what you want to accomplish. But by moving out some of those picks, next year and the year after, you have more time, so maybe things happen by the draft. If they don't, maybe there's somebody that gets signed in free agency, similar to the Oliver Bjorkstrand situation with us, where the team signed Johnny Gaudreau, they needed to move some money out. We were sitting there with the draft capital and the ability to pick them up for a 3rd and 4th, used them for a couple of years, and now in theory got a 1st and 2nd for them. So they're there's a lot of different times that things can happen, but if those picks are gone by the draft at the end of June, you can't use them in July and August. The way it's set up now, we think we've got a lot more flexibility going into the draft and post-draft the rest of the summer to do some things that hopefully will make our team better.
I think that's just society these days. Everything's now in media. I think people can lose sight of that you got Bjorkstrand for a third and fourth. He was really good for this team. He was actually in that playoff year. And now you get first and second out of it. I mean, that's something from your perspective. I mean, that's a win in every direction, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough anytime you're moving a player, especially, when you look at Gordon, Oliver, and Brandon. I mean, they were with our organization for a lot of years. They were so good for us, not only on the ice, but in the ice in the community. Their families were outstanding for us as well. So it's always a tough call to do that. As I said earlier, though, in the case of Yanni and Brandon, they were UFAs. They were free to go anywhere they wanted on July 1st. Bjorkstrand's case, he had one more season left. So, whether we would be able to sign him or not next year is another question. Whether we would have been able to get the value we got this year for him next year is another question. So we just felt with the situation we were in and the assets that were sort of on the table, the first and the second and another first in that deal, and we thought that it was the right time to make the move.
As we move into the home stretch of this season and even beyond as we get into the off season, what are some of the things you're looking for to try and work on, improve with this team? Whether it's something that happens on the ice the rest of the way, which would be great, or if not, something you're looking to improve, whether that's draft, trade, signing, whatever it might be this offseason.
Yeah, so I mean, we're evaluating everything, right? We're going to get some young kids up here, get some looks, see how close we think they are to maybe playing in our lineup next fall. We're also looking at our guys that are here and how they're performing and playing. So our schedule is going to get a lot tougher here the last month. We got some real tough games, tough teams coming in, and in theory, I made it harder for us to win by moving some pretty good players out. But this is an opportunity for guys to step up and show what they can do, and for our young kids to come in and get some games. So, that's what we're looking for here. The hope that these guys can step in and play next fall and make us a better team quicker.
Okay, so they make fun of me at work, like I'm an eternal optimist, always positive, that sort of thing. But I do look at this as positive, and I preface that by saying certainly you always want to win more games and that sort of thing. How do you balance what you would have liked to have maybe seen so far this year with, there is hope, there is positivity, and potential would probably be the best word as we move forward here with the assets we've talked about last year.
Yeah, I mean, you can call me optimistic too. I said at the start of the season we were going to make the playoffs, so we're right to be in that fight at least. Where we're sitting here today with 16 games left is basically the difference of 5 wins over those 66 games. If we had won 5 more than we had lost, we'd be in that picture. I didn't see us losing Vince Dunn for 6 weeks. I didn't see us losing, Jordan Eberle for 3 months and 40-plus games. Those are tough things to overcome. We actually lost Johnny Gord in January for 2 months as well. So those are pretty key pieces of your lineup to lose, especially your captain, the guy that sort of keeps the locker room together and not only is a good player on the ice, but off the ice is really beneficial to your progress. So I think we're much closer than maybe some people think at this point, and hopefully with the right tweaks over the offseason, we can be right where we want to be.
That's exactly what I'm going to say. You're close, but now there's $20 million in cap space. There's draft assets. I mean, there's opportunity might be your right word, right?
That's what we're hoping for, yeah. We created that to be able to do that, and now we got to go out and find the right pieces. It's never been a question of our ownership saying, hey, you can't spend to the cap. That's always been a given. They've said absolutely. We spent $94 million last year on free agents, and my owners were happy. So we're hoping to do some of that again this summer, and if not, in the free agent market with some trades to help close that $20 million gap that sits there right now. And we have some guys internally that we have to sign as well, RFAs like Coco and Evans, just to name a few. So that'll eat up some of that money. But yes, we're looking to spend it and replace.
We'll have to do this again in Joe Island, right?
Look forward to it. It'll be fun.
Awesome. Ron, thank you so much.
Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel's award-winning outdoor summer concert series is back. See amazing artists like Hanson, Austin Jenks, Melanie Fiona, and POD this summer overlooking the beautiful Snoqualmie Valley. Visit snowcasino.com for tickets. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
Chris, I think that I'm buying into what he's saying because it's laid out right in front of us, right? You talk about guys and expiring contracts being the one that they traded because you don't know that you're necessarily going to be able to re-sign them. You stockpile the draft picks beyond 2025 so that you can move them and not be stuck to having to try and pull off a trade before the draft in June, right? I think that there's a lot of strategy behind it, and we talked about patience in my rant earlier. If this team next season is not doing so hot, then you can let me have it. But in this moment, there's a ton of potential. There's a ton of opportunity. You really look at it. Trading, signings, this could be a much better, I think it will be a much better Kraken team in 25-26 when you consider the new faces I think they'll inevitably bring in, and coupled with the core and some of these young guys that are playing at a new high level like Shane Wright, Matty Beniers, and who knows, Yanni Newman could take another big jump as well. But I like the dynamic surrounding a comeback for the Kraken next season.
Yanni, seeing him up close, man.
We lost one Yanni and got another.
Yeah, he's a young, big kid, 6'4", and with a heck of a shot. That's what people had been talking about down in Coachella Valley before he came to the Kraken. And he looks like he's got some juice, I will say, behind that shot. And he's getting a tryout for the club next year, right? There's a question of how much he'll play, the Calder Cup playoffs down in Coachella Valley, how all that's going to work. Shane Wright, I think, had a good year as well. So there is that core. It's just a question of can they take a step in the other direction. That likely involves trading draft picks, trading prospects to do it.
Ron said, we are not going to draft 10 players. He's going to move some of those picks for somebody this summer. And actually, you remember in that interview, the example he gave was when they traded for Oliver Bjorkstrand ahead of the playoff season, right? Like they got him for draft picks after Columbus had signed the late Johnny Gaudreau. So it's you almost sometimes, there's direct signings you can do, there's direct trades you can do, but you also at the same time look to see what other teams are doing. And hey, wait a minute, that guy can really help us. And he's suddenly kind of the odd man out here. We can throw a draft pick that isn't like our first rounder and get a difference maker for us next season. So patience. Let's see what happens this summer. I'm eager for it, though. Yeah,
there could be a chain reaction with Mitch Marner in Toronto as the big name on the free agent market, and what happens if he signs somewhere else, et cetera. Hey, you just talked about opening day for the Mariners. Did you? I think you got this in your inbox as well. And there's an interesting Seattle connection. Major League Baseball has signed a deal with the NBC Sports regional networks to stream baseball games for 3 more teams. Did you see this?
I did not.
This is I even left out a little closing, a final buzzer. Let me find the buzzer. Where's the buzzer? There's the buzzer. It still works, I think. Yes.
It's on its last leg, so it works.
I think the final buzzer is almost finally done. Okay, so I think we both got this big email blast from Major League Baseball. The Athletics, Giants, don't call them the Sacramento Athletics, by the way, and Phillies, all going to be available direct to consumer through MLB TV. Local blackouts now removed for 26 Major League Baseball clubs. So I had to send an email to Major League Baseball to ask, what are the 4 teams that will have local blackouts? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Baltimore, Houston, Washington, and Seattle.
Oh, there it is.
So 26 Major League Baseball clubs will not have local blackouts anymore. That is, I think, something that people are watching in that sport, because that is going to really help with the growth of Major League Baseball at a time when they are losing a lot of these regional sports networks. We talked about that at length on this show last week. I am hopeful that the Mariners can figure that out soon, because I think it's going to be important for them as well.
I agree. That's a good final buzzer, Chris.
I try when I have it. We can talk about more ratings and stuff next week. It's what we like to do. Off the court, off the ice, off the field of play. That time I said it right.
Yeah, and you know who says it best is David Lee.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.